Good afternoon. It is July 22nd, 2024. You're listening to A Little Column A, Little Column B, hosted by Will Limnos and co-hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? Team USA. Real nail biter. I had let you know earlier in the day, I said, we're playing South Sudan. They're a brand new country, basically. I'm older than the country. How they even make the Olympics? What were they doing? And then I'm learning more about it. Luol Deng, he's doing a lot of work down there. I knew that we had a guy coming to Duke that was part of this program that they were working on in Africa. So I was a little bit aware of it. But coming into the game, we're a 43 point favorite. So it's a Saturday. I'm going to be out. I'll check it. I'll watch the blowout later. Fast forward through the boring parts. But then I was, I'm still on my phone. And so I'm aware of what happens mostly. I didn't watch any of the videos. Made sure yesterday to sit down and watch the whole thing. And wow, that ending, absolutely wild. I cannot believe we let any team score 100 points against us, let alone this specific team. They do have a few NBA players. They got a couple of guys from college, but just when you see what team we are bringing out there, even our second team, that's coming off the bench, but it was really an all hands on deck situation. Are you concerned?
I think there's some blame game to go around here. Now, there's some good and there's some bad. I think you've got to start with LeBron. LeBron obviously has the game-winning basket, which I don't know how it ended up in the situation it was. It might have just been bad defense and bad shooting, but yet we still scored 100 points in their shorter quarters. So it has to just be the defense. I think LeBron frustrates me a little bit when he was walking the ball up the court. I don't think we have so much depth at this point. There shouldn't be any time we're doing the efficiency game. Like, if you're tired, put the next guy in. Like, we have him. We have the guy. That being said, I think I was expecting European basketball to really complement Embiid and his physicality. It's complimenting LeBron a ton. He's able to drive, and they're just letting him do it. He's just bullying through everybody and getting to the basket. It
seems like he's gone almost back in time. I don't know. Maybe it is the shorter games, and so he's been a master in recent years of just picking his spots and exactly when he's going to turn it on, and when we definitely see some of the Laker games where he's in the corner, he's taking a play off. That's what he's got to do. But here, just some of that old school. LeBron's got the ball at the top of the key. There's a guy trying to guard him, but he is just going hard to the left, and he is getting to the hoop, and he is getting that layup, and no one is even coming close to stopping him. As soon as he drove in, I wasn't concerned. When he was walking the ball up, I was concerned. But earlier in the game, I saw him do it a few times, and it's just I thought that LeBron played really, really well the whole game. I mean, starting off before knowing that this was almost going to be a disaster, and we went up, I think 8-0. I think he had 2 dunks right off the start. Just like, ooh, okay, man, young LeBron out here.
I didn't really leave the game with a different take than I already came away from last week with. I thought Embiid looked really slow. I didn't think he had very much chemistry with anyone. He's got one nice play with Curry where Curry just makes his life easier, and that was really it. I don't know why he's playing a whole lot of minutes. I thought AD and Bam, again, continue to be really good. Edwards and Tatum, I think, are the 2 best threats we have on this team, and we're adding Kevin Durant at some point to all of this. I thought Drew Holiday, the ball pressure when this game was tight, when we needed it, really made the difference. Especially in the third quarter where we were down. We were down double digits. This wasn't like, hey, we're just toying with them. It's a 1-possession game. We were down double digits
Midway through the third.
Through a good portion of the third, and then we close it out looking like the team that we should, with a whole bunch of superstars on the team. So it's not really a concern. And even if we did lose, it would only be a false panic because the loss doesn't count towards anything. If anything, this was the wake-up call the team needed, that you can't just take it easy. You don't know who's out there. Just because you probably haven't heard of half the guys on this team doesn't mean they're not going to come out and compete. And I'm all for the Luol Deng. I think he's historically remembered for the terrible contract with the Lakers, but Luol Deng was a really good player, really smart player, did a lot of good things. The Chicago Bulls were very, very competitive with him there for a long time. I can't speak for his college years. He didn't go anywhere relevant, but I think this is a fun thing to see. The rest of the world catching up and at least competing for it. I wish I'd watched this game live and was just sweating live watching it because it would have been rewarding, especially with the lack of sports entertainment throughout the summer right now. So I was naive in assuming that being a 48-point favorite would meant I don't need to watch this game, and why would I even schedule anything around it? And boy, was I wrong. So I'm more concerned that if I lost faith on sports, like should I be questioning my sportshood right now?
No, I like I said, it was the middle of the day, Saturday in July, and we were a 40+ point favorite. I mean, when I saw the line, it's like, well, there's no way we cover that. Not because we wouldn't be able to. It's just at, at a certain level, you're not trying as hard on offense or defense. And if you beat a team by 30, that's still so many points. Even in college, at the beginning of the year when you're playing the Cupcakes, 40 points. I mean, that's an absurd number. But for it to come down to the last seconds, I mean, you mentioned how LeBron scores. He scores with 8 seconds to go, and so the South Sudan, they had a chance, and they they killed us on the boards. They got another offensive rebound. There was a bunch of contact. I mean, they've been letting the guys play more, so I don't think it was out of character that earlier in the game it wouldn't have been called a foul. But we really need to lock up. It was cool when we did need to lock up that we had two Celtics guards out there, and just when you look at that lineup of Anthony Davis, Bam, Ant, Drew Holiday, and Derek White, it's just they were so close to scoring, but I've never felt so confident that a group of five guys could shut down just anybody. Like there's always the joke like, hey, when the aliens come, who are you going to put out there? It's like, well, when the aliens come and the U.S. needs a defensive stop, those are the guys I want out there.
I looked up and down the South Sudan roster prior to the game and was like, I'm pretty in tune with all of this, and I'm not really recognizing a lot of names on here, and that was just what am I watching then too? I'm going to tune in to watch the team to confirm the players on Team USA I already think are good or really good. And so I just missed on all this. Durant was warming up and I think taking some more shots, and looks like he's going to be coming back hopefully soon. Does that make this easier, better, or more challenging? Because even with the struggle of this game, I've come to terms with who's going to play and who's not going to play. And you throw Durant in there, and that just changes something else even more because someone else is going to be out. Do you think they need him, or should they even bring him back, or like why do we have this problem? Really, is what I'm asking. I feel like we should have replaced him with somebody already.
It's a great problem to have. It looks like he's moving along. I think that they're just taking their time with him. He's a known commodity. The injury that came out, it was a strained calf. So he's just coming back. It's the Olympics. These are all exhibition games so far. None of the, like you said, none of these actually count. If we had lost, I mean, it would have been news. But they don't count for anything. These are just right in the name. They don't count. They're basically glorified scrimmages. And so there's no reason to have a guy like Durant out there. I think it is worth having him. He's a 7-footer that has guard skills. Awesome. Yeah, let's add him. I think that it'll probably be Halliburton that's gonna lose all of his minutes, and everyone will lose, or maybe not everyone, but people lose minutes here and there. But yeah, if you have Kevin Durant, you just don't go no thank you. You have him play if he's ready to play.
I just think we have a list of qualified players that are healthy and ready to go, and probably could have helped this team already. But then again, it's like there's such an overkill of all of these guys. It's like adding Durant isn't really moving the needle. We're already so far ahead of every other team. I don't want the rotation to get all screwed up again. And
we don't even have a rotation yet.
I think we do.
I hate this platoon thing that they're doing.
Why?
I hope this is just an exhibition thing, and then once we get into the real play, that we run a real rotation.
No, I
hate the platoon.
No, I like the platoon. The only reason I'll say that, and it's part of the reason I struggled this game. You watched the whole thing. Kerr left the starters in there for extra time to just kind of live in it for a little bit. To that figure. I know you have backups here, and I know there's people that can come in off the bench, but you guys got to figure this out. And I thought they started to get a little bit more chemistry, and they just have to do it by playing together. So I'm fine with it. There's no way you're going to have time for everyone to get chemistry with every single player. They might as well do platoon systems where they can get chemistry with just that setup, just that lineup. And Bam Edwards or Bam Edwards, Tatum, and Anthony Davis off the bench is awesome. I think that's fine. I don't mind them coming all the way in for all of that, and I think there's a little bit more veteran leadership with the starters, and perhaps some of them will close. But I think one of those guys off the bench is always going to be in the game to close it out, and that's fine. I don't. The platoon thing is really only an issue, I think, at the end of the game. I don't want to be in the fourth quarter saying, all right, so we're just subbing a whole 5 in and a 5 out. I think that's the spot where I agree with you. It's a little drastic. It's a little too much of a. We have nobody warm. We have everybody warm. We need to merge these together somehow. But overall, I think it's better for them, and they'll get chemistry together faster. Just knowing these are the likely outcomes of who you're going to be playing with.
You could definitely tell, even that these guys are just awesome. Just some of the turnovers, it's exactly a lack of chemistry issue. It's nothing malicious. It's not anyone trying to show anybody up, but you can just tell they're just not used to exactly where they're going to be. Now, we didn't down the stretch do the platoon system, and I thought it was interesting that Derek White, brand new to the team, he was the fifth guy in crunch time. I didn't expect that. Do you think that was we're just kind of testing things out, and that's kind of the team that's out there, and we're just going to kind of roll with this down the stretch? They're playing well, or do you think that this would be, if we were playing, Germany in a knockout stage, that that lineup would be the lineup we were going with?
White has had even less time than anyone else. I think it was an opportunity to say, hey, we need to see what you got. We need to see what this looks like. And we don't have enough games to really play around with it, so I don't care if we lose this game. It's probably not what's going to happen at the end of any of the important games, but I thought it was, we added a guy. Let's see what he can do. Let's let him actually figure out and feel out some of the other players. I don't think the moment was as relevant as it was just see what we got here. We have all these toys. We have to see if they work. If we can't just sit them on the bench entirely, and then the game that matters, we put them in and be like, oh, wow, well, you wouldn't have thought this, but him and LeBron just it doesn't work. I mean, that's a complete terrible take. That's obviously not true, but I think you just had to play him, and it didn't matter if it was a close game or not.
Well, that's why I don't love this platoon system, because I would like more of a mix to find out. And it's not like they're not practicing. Kerr and you see the coaches, and just every time they show it, it's like, oh, that's right, Ty Lue, won championships, and yeah, he's on the bench. Like they got a ton of talent. They got Spoelstra. It's like not even mentioned. It's like, all right, if we're trying to get like the best out of guys, I think he's got a good track record there. But just, I don't know, maybe just they see it in practice. They don't need to do it during the games. I guess maybe I'm just being selfish, where I would just like to see it of, okay, how does Tatum work with LeBron? They've kind of been on the opposite sides, or LeBron and AD are teammates, so would they like having the chemistry together? Or do you do like a Celtics lineup? They have chemistry with two other guys. Just more and more mix and match. And I'll be interested, next week when we're actually playing games that count. What do we do?
Can I tell you the dream lineup I want to just see? Is there a specific lineup you would want? I think the dream one is all three Celtics. That's Drew, Derek White, Tatum, and then give me Bam and give me Davis.
Okay.
I just want to see the defense of that and the offensive opportunities, and then those three Celtics just getting to play with those two bigs. That's awesome. I mean, that's basically having like two Porzingises out there that play better defense. Some degree of that. Of Allen, this are obviously a good stretch guys and good forwards and smart defenders. I would love to see that. Is there a combination you would like to see?
I don't know. It's almost like an Avengers movie. It's like all of these guys are all amazing, and just like any interaction between any of them. I mean, it was just awesome. I've always been a fan of Curry, but we had to go against the Warriors in the finals, so it's not nearly as much fun when you're rooting against him. And just that deep three that he took, where he hasn't been playing in the Olympics, and just there's probably at least some amount of audience that you're aware of Curry, but then to see him in the game of getting the ball at closer to half court than the 3-point line, and him just taking it, and your immediate reaction not being like, what are you doing? Just being like, and then when he hits it, just so much fun. I do want to mention, because I was very critical in the earlier games. Embiid still has room to go, but he was much better this game. he wasn't in during the stretch. I still think that Anthony Davis has just figured out the international game, or it's just been working for him better. Just being healthier. It just seems like
He's in
as
shape.
soon as the ball hits the rim, he's looking to knock it off. But Embiid played much better this game. This gave me much more hope.
Davis just looks healthy, and Embiid just doesn't look in shape yet. It's nothing against him. It's the middle of summer. Both the guys are
he's coming off
recovering.
an injury.
Both of the guys coming off of injuries. It's just he's more recovered than him. I'm just shocked that we're giving Embiid the workload as if he's 100% healthy. And it's no disrespect to him as a player, and it's probably doesn't have anything to do with what is going to happen in the regular season just months away. As bad as I think Embiid has been in some of these games, it's not like I'm saying, oh, Sixers, they're going to miss the playoffs. Like they're done. Like we're not there yet. It's not that. It just there's a lot of really good talent on this team. When I see a guy who just doesn't look like in that great of shape, and I see all the other guys that are not playing over that, I scratch my head a little bit. So it might be the better with some of the matchups. We might really benefit from having Embiid and Durant against some of the other taller, bigger teams. We haven't really faced that yet, as well as some of the more physical teams. I don't think we've faced that yet either. So, anything else for Men's USA? We're playing Germany right now at the moment. You got a score by any chance? Are we down
No,
again? Because if we're down at half, I'm going to stop the podcast.
I didn't want to have it on to distract me if it was going poorly or if it was going great. So I've got it recorded. I'll be checking in on that later.
All right. In other Olympic news, it looks like Team USA just in general is having a vote for who's going to carry the flag for the opening ceremony. Now, did you have candidates for this, or is this already decided?
No. So this, I did not realize exactly how it worked. So I saw who the person was, and then I saw that it is voted on by the other Olympians, and it was just a reminder that the opening ceremonies are Friday, like a few days away. Like, okay, this is really happening. We've been watching these exhibition games, so knew it was kind of close, but okay, this is really happening. And so every country, all the athletes get to walk out, but there's one person that holds the flag. Care to venture a guess on who our Olympian is this year?
No idea. Who's the female swimmer who's only like a couple medals away from
Ledecky.
Katie
Ledecky?
Ledecky. That would be my guess.
Not a bad choice. Very decorated Olympian. No, it is for the first time in U.S. men's history. It'll be a basketball player, LeBron James. He will be carrying the flag for the entire United States, voted on by his peers.
Cool. It's never going to be another basketball guy, and I guess if you were to give it to one with enough accolades, it would be him. I mean, who's the next guy you could do for basketball? I don't think there is one.
Durant's had a lot of success. I think it's just LeBron already gets plenty of attention because he's a famous NBA player. So a lot of times it's like he already has all throughout the NBA seasons. He gets the attention, where the Olympics, it's every 4 years, maybe you get some attention. So that was a really good pick, or suggestion by you of Katie Ledecky of like in a non-Olympic year, when is her name coming up? Never. So, but I think that's cool that it's a vote, and if we don't have the most Olympians, we are definitely the close to the top, and just cool that people that aren't necessarily in your sport are still voting for you, and it's pretty great honor.
Yeah, I kind of wish it wasn't him now that you just mentioned all that. It's like we already know who LeBron is. Nobody's gonna be saying like, hey, who's that guy carrying the flag for USA? Like they're gonna know. Versus if it was Ledecky, you'd be like, hey, you should probably learn this name. You should probably learn who this is. This person's, I think, 2 medals away from being an all-time medal holder for women's. I think just in Olympics in general, maybe specifically swimming, but there's the potential of some really historic stuff happening that just isn't gonna happen all the time, and that's a name you should know. I think I would rather that sort of situation, or do you then go about being like, who the hell is that? Is that the problem? Is that why it has to be LeBron?
I think it can go either way, but I just think it's cool that it's it's a basketball guy. That's never happened before, so that's unique, and just a reminder that, we're kind of staying away from all the politics on our podcast here, mostly probably because we're not smart enough to really have an informed opinion on it. But just like LeBron, normally throughout the NBA season, he's a Laker, he's on other teams, he's crushing our team, so it's just like, oh, but it's like, no. This is America. This is what America has to offer. It's LeBron James. Look at that. A kid from Akron. He was anointed the chosen one when he was 16 years old, and all he's done is just absolutely delivered at every level, including the Olympics. And the joke is, the sooner you have to bring up the Olympic resume, the weaker the argument is. But I think this and just his record in the Olympics just adds to it, because it's going to take you a while, but then once you get to the Olympics, to be the only basketball player that's going to be carrying the flag. It's cool.
No hate here. It's the longevity is incredible of LeBron James. It just continues to go. All right, let's close this out here with a little Celtics corner. Sam Hauser has signed a new deal. There was a little fear that this was going to be the only guy we weren't going to be able to hold on to. And not only do we hold on to him, we got him for 4 more years. I sent you the joke of, are we even going to be able to sell this team? We're going to be so far over the cap. We're going to be over the second apron. That are we going to have to get bought by the league when no one can afford any of this salary on this team? And that's how this is all going to go wrong, where we've made every smart move in the world. We've managed to squeeze every single dollar out of whatever you can legally, and as well as accepting all of the punishment of the tax. I love having him. I think it's a good deal. I think Sam Hauser's actually worth a lot more than this. I think in 4 years, we're not going to regret this at all. If anything, in 4 years, he's going to renegotiate for more money. Just because I think he can shoot, and I think he's a better defender than anyone's giving him any credit for. And that's just a really good threat.
He stripped Luka. I saw it.
A really good threat across the league. So I'm not worried about this, but I am a little worried about the sale of the team, and that we just it's one way. There is no looking back, and that we are so far in, and that this is very much like we have pushed every limit possible to get every inch, every dollar into this team. I don't regret it, but I am a little nervous that this is it. Like, we can't even change this if we wanted to. Are you concerned at all?
No, we are locked in. To your concern about being able to sell the team, I almost think this goes the other way. Sometimes you see a team and there's a problem, or the team is too expensive. But in this case, I think it makes it better, because yes, is it going to be expensive? For sure. But this team is locked in. This team has won a championship, and the guys that are the main engine are still young. So you're not buying past performance, you're buying future performance. So you come in and you buy this Celtics team, you have expectations of championships immediately, and you don't even have to do the new owner syndrome of, I got to make this crazy swing and do this. It's like, no. Team is locked in. You would like to make that crazy swing. Oh, yeah. Nope, but you can't. This is the team. Ride with them. They already won a championship. We're the favorite to win next year. The East has retooled. The West young guys are going to be a year older, a year more experienced. But you're buying a luxurious premier product, and you're going to have to pay for it.
How many other owners in the league would sign up for what the Celtics have? Half?
Is there any of them that wouldn't?
Or you think
the
all?
Bulls.
You think
the
everyone?
Bulls are too cheap.
I think a lot of teams wouldn't have done this last little Sam Hauser bit. They'd be like, no, look, I gave you all the big toys. We don't get the little side. You don't get the accessories, right? You got to hold on to this for a second. So I give him a lot of credit for doing it all, but it's also knowing that who's ever going to buy this is the person who's going to pay for it. Like, everyone now, this is free money. Like, we're not paying for it. It's just a little reckless. I love it, but it's crazy. It's just, I don't think every other team in the league would do it.
I think if you're looking at it just as the total, and it's because of the luxury tax, and there's the whole second apron, which is a new rule that just kind of came in, but that makes you wonder, well, are they going to change the rules down the road? There's already talk of, we don't like the second apron by the player side. So does some stuff change? This new media deal's coming in, so that could change things in the not too distant future, where these are huge contracts now, and they're not going to be less, they're not going to be smaller in the future, but compared to the percentage of the cap, they could be. And then all of a sudden it looks like, hey, we got some deals. And I think if you go and look at every deal individually, they're all good deals. We got Derek White for less than what he could have got on the open market. This Hauser deal, I mean, it's a little over 10 million a year for a rotation guy. I mean, that's pretty much, if not the going price, that might be a little under the going price. Tatum, maybe not this year in the MVP conversation, but he was last year. And I think this year is because the team was so good and because he has adapted and done less of the scoring MVP type stuff. So yeah, he has to get the max. I think, the other guy, like if you look at each deal individually, each deal makes sense. And it's a big number. It's a big number.
If you were to do it, I have no argument with any of the players they did it with. It's just, we did it. And now that we've done it, it's okay. I'm happy with it. I wouldn't have done anything differently.
I'm just very interested.
But it's very high risk. We're acting like this is a crazy risk going on here as well. I mean, they're all very smart decisions, and it's calculated risk, and I'm all for that. But
a lot of times, they talk about the disease of more. After you win the championship, now the next year, are you not as motivated? The first time around, hey, whatever I need to do. Now you want to, I want my stats to be a little better. But I think a lot of times that is all money focused. Well, if everyone just got paid, no one's worried about money. Everybody could be focused on winning. There's no concern of, I really need to get, my points per game. I need to tick that up a little bit. So for my next contract, everybody's next contract isn't until 4 or 5 years. We can just focus. Everybody lock up. Everybody have a great time in the locker room like we did last year. Nobody do anything crazy. Let's go. Let's get another one.
The other thing that I think this is going to trap some other teams into doing is they're going to try to replicate it. Now, the Knicks have been smart about it. I won't just handpick them. But some team in the next 4 years is going to try to do this. Maybe something like what Phoenix has got going on right now, or maybe what the Clippers are currently going through, where they did it, and it didn't work, and this is how it crumbles, and it looks really bad when it crumbles. Someone's going to do this so far beyond fixing that they're going to have to fix the second apron thing, and I don't know what that means. Or they're just going to...
But this is the same thing as the... my immediate thought was the Rooney Rule, but that's the rule in football that you have to interview multiple candidates. You have to interview minority candidates for a top position. I can't remember the name of the rule, but it's that you can't trade first-round picks in consecutive drafts. And it's to protect the owners from themselves. The same way that they had to put a max contract in place. It's to protect the owners from themselves of just giving too much that it just screws the whole team over, giving away too many picks that it just short term just screws the whole team over. They have to put these rules in place, and that's what the second apron is a similar situation of making it so the Warriors were the main culprits, and the Clippers not far behind, and now the Celtics, that you just as the owner just can't spend far and beyond everybody else for a certain amount of time. It's to help with the parity and to help with the competitiveness of the league.
I just want an owner who really only wants to brag about how much money he spent, and that's it. I don't know if that exists, but I want the guy to be like, I'm so rich, I spent this much. And I want it to be
and I'll do it again.
And I want it to be every dollar on the Celtics like that. Just to be like, look, I'm going to be the highest spender in this league. There's nobody who's going to touch me. I think Ballmer's doing that to some degree. I don't know.
Well,
I think he came in.
The problem is it's not the 80s anymore where guys aren't even making $1 million. Obviously inflation, all of that, but now this number is getting so big we don't have individual owners anymore. It's been groups and conglomerates for a while because this is so expensive. And so with this second apron, and they've been doing this with the luxury tax for a while, the first year you're in the luxury tax, it's one, but then it keeps going up by a factor every time you're in the luxury tax, that this number, it just gets so astronomical. It's like, this is the GDP of a small country. It's probably not even a small country anymore. It's a medium-sized country.
It's probably
people
multiple.
Just don't have that much money.
It's probably multiple countries.
Probably.
All right. Well, at least it's us, and at least we don't disagree with any of the money that was spent. So it's more I just anticipating the new person coming in, and it's gonna be one of two things. It's gonna be either like I can't do this or keep doing this, and What if it's the alternative?
No, I think it legitimately will be. We can't do this with the second apron, the way the luxury tax works, and that's why I think we were smart a few years ago that we were able to dip below it, and it's gonna happen at some point that you have to dip below because the number just gets so ridiculous and just no one can afford it.
All right, we'll wrap that up there. It's officially summertime. It's July. Not a whole lot of sports going on. We got Olympic stuff coming up around the corner here. That's exciting. But for the meantime, we're going to do one of our summertime drafts like we've done in the past. We're just going to do every other, not a snake draft, right? We'll just do that.
Yep, every other.
Zach had the idea of drafting podcast hosts. If you were about to start a new podcast, or a podcast business, we'll say, who would be your top pick and who would be your top choices? I went for a variety of people across different platforms. I'm basing some of the success on elsewheres and saying, well, if they just did it as a podcast, maybe it would work. Do you have anyone on your list who actually isn't currently doing podcasts?
No.
All right. You stuck very strict to they're actually doing this. This is realistic. We can have this going forward.
I figure we're only doing top 5. There's plenty of amazing podcast hosts. So if you're picking somebody off the bench, oof, it's a bold move.
I just think we'll get to it. I'll get to that argument. All right, we're gonna flip a coin right now for first pick. Heads or tails?
Tails never fails. Tails.
And tails it is. You're up first. All right, Zach, you're starting a podcast business. Who's your number one choice? And if anything, I think this is the hardest pick. Because
easiest pick.
You think?
Easiest pick.
I think you have the most arguments for the most people.
The man's done it twice already. He's sold to Spotify. He's already mentored a ton of other people that are going to be on both of our lists. Easy. I'm going with Bill Simmons, Podfather.
I think that's a great choice. He's done a great job with The Ringer. There's a variety of sports influence from pretty much our whole lifetime that really stems from Bill Simmons. Is there specifically a show, though, that you would lean more towards in? Because I had him written down, and then I kind of wrote down what show I think you should start with, or what show I think going forward they could still continue to have the most success with. I'm not saying he's ever going to fizzle out with sports, and I know that's the bread and butter, but this Rewatchables podcast, I think that has endless possibilities that he could just do forever and always have plenty of content to do. Is there a specific show you would start with first with him?
Obviously, he's got his own show. It's right in the name, where he's got football and basketball locked down. He has the star power to get, I don't want to say any celebrity, but he is getting in A-list celebrities, able to do long interviews with them. It's not some 15-minute kind of whatever. It's just you actually get to sit down. You ask the questions. I think that he's smart with the Rewatchables, that he has his wheelhouse and it's in his era, and the newer stuff it's past him. He's got an area. He's got just a whole section that he is just awesome at. And with the Rewatchables, he knows when to just let other people take it. He doesn't need to be on every single one. He'll step back, and I think that's important to know.
Yeah, I think that would be the long run moneymaker. And it's nothing against his sports thing. I just imagine at some point, very much like his writing, he just won't want to do it anymore. It won't have it in him. And I think he could work once a week and bank out a couple of these and just, I think he could do that for a really long time. How much did you factor age into any of this? I mean, I'm not saying any of these guys are old or that they can't do podcasting, like it's over exhausting or something, but did you take into age that maybe the younger version of this similar style person would be better off starting off with?
Not strictly age. Like, I wasn't thinking about this so much like a dynasty draft on, okay, Bill Simmons is, in his 50s, so he has, 20 years left of good podcast years, where somebody else on this list is, in their 20s, so they have 50 years to go, like that. But I did think that he has experience setting up a network, and that, like I said, his bread and butter is a little bit older. he's going to have that recall. So I'll probably go a little younger in the draft just to try to balance that out. It's not all these podcasts are guys that are in, in their 50s talking about, what happened in the 1984 finals.
It's a good choice. I had Simmons on the list. I won't tell you where I had him ranked. Might be a little insulted, but I'm a huge fan. A big subscriber. All right, pick number 2. I thought this was going to be number 1. I'm not saying I expected to get Simmons, but it is. You are throwing a wrinkle at the draft already. I should have known better. I will go with Joe Rogan. The Joe Rogan Experience. Yep. I have 2 kind of different friends that listen to this. I wouldn't say I'm a religious person who listens to every single episode, but I have friends who are sending me links or clips or bits or even just full episodes sometimes and be like, hey, you got to check out Rogan and this one comedian, these 4 comedians, these however many comedians. And then I have other people that are like, I'm exhausted with Rogan and the comedians, and all I want to hear about are the scientists and the weird, nature facts you could find out about who knows what that you would have never clicked on and never had any interest in. But because you subscribe to the Joe Rogan Experience, you were able to learn something you would have never learned. So I ask you, which side of the fence are you on that?
I listen to all of Joe Rogan's podcasts.
All subscribed. All right. Well, did you have them on your list, 1 or 2?
Yes. Yep. Here's on my list. I really didn't go so much in order. I just kind of had like a group, and I'm kind of just going on feeling. If you hadn't picked him, he probably would have been my second choice. He's far and away the number 1 podcast. 3-hour episodes regularly. I guess part of my thought was with Simmons is he has multiple shows, or he's able to guest spot on other shows, where Rogan gets a lot of interesting guests, but he's just kind of got like his one sort of thing. Like, he doesn't know about football. He knows about UFC, but he's really not going off of like his main path. So that's where I kind of stayed away from it.
Yeah,
Go for versatility.
I like that Rogan is curious and honestly not really qualified to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, and that we just kind of work through it. It's a learning experience for him. I mean, if you go back and listen to some of years ago Rogan, it's very different than today. There are mistakes that have been corrected. There are errors he's not going to have happen again, and challenges I don't think he'll ever face as much as he has in the past. So I think this is a little bit of a safe bet going forward. All right, pick number 3. Going back to you. We'll go every other.
Number 3. I'm staying again with versatility, staying in sports. I'm going with Big Cat of Pardon My Take.
I was going to ask you. I think I got a lot. You can take them both. Because is there really ever a scenario where it is just Big Cat?
Like, you can't, no, because it's not shows. It's not shows. It's hosts.
I had Big Cat
I only get
very high on my list.
So if you want PFT commenter, you can get him. Big Cat. Also, as I was talking with Bill Simmons, where Big Cat is late 30s, so it's a generation younger than Bill Simmons, but still talking about sports. There's definitely more of a comedic element to what he does. There's a little more shtick to it, but he can hop on to different podcasts and he can jump right in. I mean, he literally talks like for a living. Just anytime, it's gold. He is just able to create content and just he makes it look effortless. Obviously, he works at it, and it's not effortless, and that's kind of part of what makes it amazing. But during the pandemic, he bought a numbers machine, and now the podcast at the end of every show they guess numbers, and that's just a thing that they've created. It's so like dumb, but it's like, oh no, I'm interested. I'm gonna guess the number. Maybe I'll guess it today. And also during the pandemic, he bought like a little toy horse racing track, and it was like 8:00. I'm having the horse races, and you get people betting on it, and he's just an instigator, but in a good way, where it definitely pushes people's buttons, but there's still a level that it's very likable. So I think that I think the show he does now with PFT, I don't think you'd be able to necessarily go beyond that, but I think you could pair him up with a lot of other people, and it would still do great numbers.
I had him on the list. He was not my first Barstool choice, believe it or not. I had him. I would have picked one person ahead of him.
Ooh, interesting.
In terms of what I listen to and who I listen to through any of the Barstool characters, by far my favorite would be Big Cat. I think he's the most versatile. He's the least offensive, also, and that's rewarding. And that plays out well to his own, to the fan base the way it's supposed to. All right, they know exactly what they're doing. They're very good at it. And I think very similar to all the other guests and hosts we have mentioned here, very well affiliated. I think who you're associated with and the brand that you've stuck with consistently 3 years has a whole lot to do with it, and it's definitely a strong vote going forward. All right, number 4. Man, when I tell you I was planning on getting Simmons and Big Cat, and that I thought for sure you were going to get Rogan, that now I didn't really rank them either, so I'm very much just have a written list here, and it's not very organized. I will go with I'll go with Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien needs a friend. I think the association with all the late night guests, they have so much fun on the show. It's very much kind of like a behind the scenes extended version of what his late night show was, and I'm into it. And I think some people would still be into that. I think the guests that they get are always going to be recognizable, and I think that's a steady business that you would want going forward as a host. I still think he's very funny too. I think it's even better in the longer platform than the shorter one he was kind of forced into for so many years. So at number 4, we'll go with Conan O'Brien. Did you even have him on the list?
Not even on the list. You reached. You easily could have gotten him later.
I think he's still a top host. I mean, I have a whole bunch of other people on here. I just wanted to pick ones I thought would be fun and that could continue to have fun, as well as I think are having fun on the show. Some of the hosts, it looks like it's work, and I don't think it's as much work for some of the guys that we've already mentioned. But there's not really a strict ranking I got going here. I could rearrange this and there could be a lot of mock drafts with a lot of different boards up and down of all this. But who you got at number 5?
Number 5, I'm going back to the Ringer. I'm going with Chris Ryan. Chris Ryan is like Bill Simmons, like it's like his right-hand man for podcasts. I think I've already gotten, so I'm going younger again, but where Big Cat is creating content out of thin air, but he is definitely more on the jokes, and it's silly all the time. Chris Ryan, I think, brings a level of maturity. He can review a brand new TV show and it will still be fun, but won't just be a complete joke like the way Big Cat would do it. Again, sticking with the versatility, you could bring Chris Ryan on and ask him about the latest season of The Bear, and he can get into intricate details, talk about different producers or different actors, and you could also bring him on and he would be ready to talk about the latest happenings with the Sixers and what his expectations were. So again, going for flexibility, he's got he's part of the multiple Ringer podcast. So I think you just have him in there and he is just always ready to go, and you're going to be in good hands with Chris Ryan.
Love the skill set. I don't know if he has the name. Definitely has the skill set, and if you want to base entirely on that, you think this guy's just really good at what he does, regardless of whether enough people know who he is or not, it's going to work. So I agree with all that. I just didn't have him on my list because of that. I just thought there's a lot of other guys. I'm honestly might not be even skill or even have as much fun as he does. He's very loose and very. It's like a sophisticated fun. It's good. It's a good balance. So I like.
Yeah, I mean, I said mature. You said sophisticated, and it seems like hoity-toity, but it's not the silly. It's not the silly humor that some of the other guys have. Which it just sometimes you're in the mood for like everything to just be a complete joke, and other times you are just a little more of don't mind jokes here, but I am looking for like a real review on this serious movie.
All right, next pick. This one would have been, I would have picked her over Big Cat, and that is Alex Cooper and the Caller Daddy. I'm not a listener, but I couldn't find, every time I looked up all these popular podcasts, I couldn't find a list that just didn't have her on there. And she's all over this. We talked earlier a couple weeks ago about how she's going to have her own segment on the Olympics coming up. I just think that's going to open up to, hopefully, this is either going to ruin her or expand her into huge pop culture even more. I think she's the biggest podcast thing through Barstool, and Barstool's, I think, a very big platform. So I I have no regret in all this. I just only regret to say that I really don't listen. I'm not a subscriber. I don't get clips or anything else like that. But that's how popular I think she is. That I'm willing to just take her right now at this point.
Sight unseen or unheard.
Any
sound unheard.
Any problem with all that? I mean, do you not think that there's an entire demographic that's going to continue to be interested in all this?
I've heard good things. I know that started at Barstool, then there was issues there, and it contractually, and so has gone out. It's not the first time that's happened. Anywhere, but just not something that I've listened to. So
a lot of other people do. And if we're starting a business, I think that's what I want. We're not listening to everything. So who you got number 7?
Next one. I think this is I think he's fallen far enough. I probably should have picked him over Chris Ryan, but going back to the ringer, young Mr. Ryan Russillo. Can't believe at my 4th pick I was able to get life advice. It doesn't come, doesn't come with nephew Kyle, but just having that, and Ryan is very unique that he does not need a co-host. He does not need anybody else on his team. You can just wind him up and set him loose, and he can go for an hour monologuing. And I have no idea how he does it. It's a skill. Sometimes you have to remind yourself when you're listening. Just like he's just been talking. He's been just talking this whole time. There's been no one talking back to him. Has the ESPN ties. You can throw him on with other people, but I think really he is best on his own. And I think that's going to be important when you're starting off new, of having a known quantity. You kind of mentioned with Chris Ryan, not so much known, but I think Ryan is a known entity. And like I said, he could just monologue and he is good to go.
I really tried not to just draft a whole bunch of ringer people, and I forced you into it. I had him on the list. I specifically had life advice. The one thing I give Ryan Russillo a ton of credit for is not only the solo venturing, but the dedication to actually watching the games. There are very few. I'm not accusing anyone on the list of not watching all of the games. I actually think Big Cat's pretty good about it, and Simmons is good about it as well. But there's plenty of sportscasters that we're watching every day that didn't watch the game last night. And Ryan's at home skipping out on everything else that the rest of the world's interested in just to watch sports. And I entirely buy into that, and I respect that a ton. I also think life advice, if you ever just didn't want to do the sports thing anymore, that could carry forever. I mean, you're always gonna have enough emails. There's always gonna be some sort of crazy scenario going on, and
people are always having problems.
Those aren't ever going away. There's always gonna be an outlet of Ryan Russillo life advice, and I think that would be the segment I would actually start with if I was betting on it for really like the long run of all this. So great pick. I love, huge fan. Nothing really to nitpick about all that. I probably could have gone with him instead of Alex Cooper. I just didn't want to go Chris Ryan and Ryan Russillo back to back. Trying to produce my own podcast here a little bit, but the next one I'm going to go even more curveball because I'm just going entirely based on the business idea of all this. In that, the YouTube business is a massive business, and that they're specifically good at saying and telling ads, and podcasting is no different than all that. So I think you could insert most popular YouTuber here. If you go back and forth, I'm sure you'll find other ones. I'm going to put Mr. Beast down right here as just one of the most popular YouTubers in the world. And I think he just generates a ton of money doing all sorts of silly things, and a podcast would be easy for him to do if he wanted to do it. And he really hasn't failed at anything. I mean, he's branched out to so many other things at this point beyond just the silly videos and the challenges and all that. He's got his own chocolate. He's got his own all sorts of other businesses out there. Have you even heard of Mr. Beast?
Yes, I've heard of Mr. Beast.
All right, that's enough. I don't need any more validation than that. The fact you've heard of him is enough for me. But it's an ad business, is it not? And how is YouTube any different than the podcasting? I think a lot of stuff transfers over.
You are completely correct on the business aspect of it, and like you said, he's been successful everything that he's been doing. And so, if he wanted to start or if he was part of a new podcast team and coming up with ways to make money, I think that he would be an asset to the team.
His budget is always wild too. I think everyone sees the prizes he gives away, but he's really smart about the way they set up everything. It doesn't seem like he overextends himself, despite the crazy, extravagant stuff he organizes, and it's all generally a silly premise of some sort of game show or challenge, and I don't think you're ever going to run out of stuff like that. And I think he's one of the best ones to come up with some of those sort of things. And I would want him starting a podcast business if I could have the opportunity. The thing is, I'll never have that opportunity. I think he's always going to be in control. A lot of these guys, we're never going to have the opportunity to hire any of them. They all control their own destiny. So it's I'm going with him at number 8. Who you got at number 9?
At number 9, my last pick. So I'm gonna go. I think a little deeper into the pot, but I want to make sure that his his name gets recognized. That he's on my team. I'm going with Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball. A little more obscure than the other names that I have, but this guy absolutely puts in the work. He's from Australia, so he's able to watch the basketball games and get podcasts out on them immediately afterwards. He admits right up front that I don't watch all of the games. It's impossible to do so, but he is watching as many of the games as he possibly can. He's looking at the box scores every day during a fantasy basketball season. He has got a detailed breakdown of the night before. He has got a preview of the night coming up. In the off season, he is still coming out with different. He just did the different division previews based on what they did in the draft and in free agency, and what he thinks the breakdowns are going to be. With Summer League wrapping up, he is going to be doing biggest takeaways from Summer League. It's just, even in the off season, it's fantasy basketball. Fantasy basketball doesn't start for months, and he will still be cranking out content and just is an absolute machine. And some of these, the other guys I have are a little more, I'm going to call them premier, where it's like, hey, we do it a few times a week. This guy is doing multiple podcasts a day, and I'm talking about, you just got to get the numbers. You just got to keep getting the podcast out, and the information they puts out, it's not garbage. It's all very relevant. It is helpful, and especially where if this guy is a professional and he can't watch all of the games, I would love to watch all the basketball games, but you physically cannot do it. So to just get a breakdown, to be able to get suggestions on who to add, who to drop, what things happened that were real, what things happened that were, a little bit of fool's gold, just very helpful. And, so a little more obscure, but yeah, Josh Lloyd, Locked On. Also another guy that is, he will have interviews occasionally with other fantasy basketball people, but majority of the time is by himself. Used to be king of the drops. He had so many drops, and then there must have been something legally that happened, and he had to stop, and he's been slowly introducing these different ones. But it was just a lot of fun for where you're listening to this guy multiple times a day to just have these drops.
Man, what a small market. What just
Yep.
In fantasy basketball, we're starting a business right now. That's the market we're going to target. The least fantasy sport that everyone cares about. I mean, it's not football.
What do you mean the least? The second?
Yeah, what else is it? I think
For sure.
baseball is more
way down behind football, but
yeah, it's a business that makes money. So I guess you're reporting and giving information around the NBA still. If I were going to go that directions, I would have just went like Shams or Woj. Had just been like, I mean, Shams broke news the other day.
Oh,
that was.
Did you? I didn't really like Woj's podcast that much.
No,
it felt very fake.
I'm not saying.
It felt like very produced, and I didn't really like it.
What if the sources that you were generally getting from them that they share on everyone else's platform was suddenly exclusive? If you could tie them all up and say, nope, you're on this podcast. This is where all the news breaks now. You have no interest in that at all? I mean, look, this isn't going to happen, but neither is everything else we just said is going to happen.
So somebody listens. So then you just have they break the news, but then you have the guy that listens that breaks the news to you, and so you find out what? You find out about 30 seconds later than you would have initially. That doesn't impact me that much.
You still get the listens. Is it a business? Is it not? I mean, what do you want? You want to just have Josh Lloyd run your business?
I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible. Woj was on TV doing the draft and still had the need that he had to tweet it out to be first, to beat his own show that he was on. So if he's doing a podcast, podcasts are recorded. So he tweeted out while he was doing it. So then the listens later, well, you don't need to listen to the podcast. You already know the information.
I just think they know a lot more than everyone else, and that could always end up being endless content. I don't know. That kills all the sources, though. Does that ruin it? Does that really just start axing everyone out?
I don't know if Woj still has his podcast, but I listened to it, and it was fine. it's just like there's a lot.
He's reading
there's a
tweets
lot
out
of
loud.
podcasts.
I get it. Like it's not a podcast.
No, it wasn't even that. He was interviewing people, but I just thought that there were other people that interviewed better than he did, and that he's got his own thing, and it doesn't need to be related to podcasting.
All right, before I go with my last pick, you have any honorable mentions, or do you want to do that after my pick?
Do it after.
All right, last pick. I really would have liked to have Ryan Russillo on the team. I'm a little bummed that I kind of whiffed on that, but
I left it wide open for you. I thought for sure that's it. After I picked Chris Ryan, I saw where I had Russillo. I was like, oh, you should have went because Will is just going to scoop him right up.
yeah, no, and I kind of already did my Shams take. I didn't really want to throw him on there. I just thought it was crazy. Shams breaking news outside of sports that's bigger than probably the most news you're going to get all year. It was
think how many sports fans or basketball fans found out about Biden dropping out because of Shams that might not like you wouldn't have found out eventually, but found out way sooner because of that.
That's crazy. I mean, that's the sort of connection of all this. I mean, his screen on time during that stuff that blows my mind every time. I see like 22 hours of screen on time. Like that's insane. That's not healthy. That's just insane. All right, last pick here. I have a couple names. I think I'm going to go with Jon Stewart. I think there's just still a draw there. I know he's just started coming back doing his show once a week, and I think he does a podcast once a week as well. I don't want to get political into anything. I don't really have a direction that's going to help you with any of the sources on the show, but I just think that there's an audience there that I think he always brings in, and I think he's good at what he's trying to do. And I don't want to say really much more than that, but I'm happy to have Jon Stewart on the team.
Well, clearly we watch or listen to very different podcasts because four of your lists weren't on my list. So
Well,
I don't know if that makes it a good draft or a terrible draft.
Well, you just picked your favorite Ringer people. I mean, what did you expect here? I didn't realize that was going to be the show.
I'm starting a podcast with people I want to listen to.
Yeah, but you only pick people you listen to. I thought you would at least venture out and be like, there's an audience
Why
here.
would I pick somebody that I don't know?
Because the rest of the world is interested in it. You're making a business that you're only interested in, and you're not the only customer.
And I'm a paying customer. I got a lot of disposable income.
You're one person. I feel like you limited your audience in every direction here. It's your choice. I'm not going to analyze it any more than that. I just
one of
Josh
them,
Lloyd shouldn't be on this list, and I hate that I'm going at him.
Podcaster.
I hate that I'm going. Yeah, I did pick somebody who wasn't a podcaster, but if they wanted to be a podcaster, they would immediately be more popular than Josh Lloyd. It wouldn't even take any effort. It would just take them starting it one day.
If that's the type of audience member that you want, I don't know if those teenagers have the disposable income that other people do.
I mean, Mr. Beast is better at selling ads than anyone else. He probably sells more ads than anyone else we mentioned on the list. And he doesn't even have a podcast. I get it. But, if he did, don't tell me he couldn't sell the ads.
That's right. And this is all about starting a business, and we had unlimited funds. So they're all coming to the team.
All right. I don't really want to force this last bit out here. So that's honorable mention. Sorry. Let's close out with that. We'll save our next one for the next week.
Yep. So for honorable mentions, had Jason Concepcion, Zach Lowe, Matthew Berry, PFT commenter, JJ Redick, Chris Vernon, and Shea Serrano.
The only one I didn't get to say was Terry Gross, Fresh Air NPR, and Taylor Tomlinson, the new late night host. She has had a podcast in the past, but she was kind of like the younger version of Conan that I was joking about, being like, well,
okay,
I could do that. Like, she's just going to eventually have a bunch of connections of doing late night, and then if she could tell all the stories after that, would immediately generate. Great stand-up act. She's, I think she's still under 30. Those are the only other names I had here, other than writing down Shams and Woj last minute, being like, a guy that breaks news like that, let's just talk it out. Are you sure he can't be drafted? All right, that's all we got for this week. Is there anything else you wanted to
add? Celtics won the World Championship, but the EuroLeague champion is calling us out. Says, hey, you want to be world champion? You got to play against the world, and I just love it because it's like you're at the at the playground, and somebody is calling out somebody else, but all the the parents and the teachers are in between because clearly the Celtics are not going to go play a European team. That's just not how it works. So it's just like, hey, you could say it, and there's nothing that can really happen, but you can say it.
Go Celtics. Oh, what are you gonna do? Are you excited for the Olympics? Are we actually gonna get some content on which event are you at least excited for? Outside of basketball, obviously we're gonna discuss that.
Well, this is the first year with 3-on-3 basketball, so that's going to be interesting. Jimmer Fredette, a little blast from the past there. Always excited about the track events, especially the speed events. Just always cool seeing fast people run fast. So yeah, just a little bit of everything, and I just like there'll be sports on during the day. It's going to be in France, so it's like you wake up in the morning, it'll be on, and you can watch it throughout the day, and kind of just stumbling upon different things. I love the basketball and like some of the other things, but it's just cool to come across maybe like a swimming event and just you learn about new people and you hear a little story, just a little background, and maybe you find a sport that you've never even seen before. It's just okay, I'm gonna learn about this today, and you never know.
Are you gonna watch the opening ceremony?
USA. Yeah, I'll watch the opening ceremony.
Yeah, I'll tune in. I feel like I'm just judging it, comparing it to everything in the past, which is probably not the best way to do it. But it is like kind of the first presentation of like, hey, this is how we're gonna do things, and I have no doubt that it'll be exciting. So I'll be watching, and I guess I'll be looking out for LeBron James and whatever other athletes were voted. I assume this was the same situation across every other country, or were we the only one that chose to vote for our flag holder? We'll see.
We're pretty big on democracy, so it might be different in other countries. I'm not really sure.
Oh, God, we really got to get out of these political corners I keep putting myself in here. We'll be back next week. We'll have some sort of other gimmicks. We'll have some Olympic talk and hopefully some more sports to fill everything else out with. But thanks, as always, for listening. Little Column A, Little Column B. Subscribe on our YouTube, Facebook page, wherever you listen to your podcast. And you can follow Zach on his X account, which is
Wicked Z-Man 24.
We'll be back.
Well, little column A, little column B.